All right, welcome to 1FG Archives here on YouTube. This is Just Chatting, Volume 17. We are back, and this time episode we're going to be doing a recap of the Retro Gaming League and Season Nine's result. Let's get started. So first and foremost, not to really spoil anything straight up right ahead, but yes, I am the first back-to-back champion for the Retro Gaming League for both Seasons 8 and Season 9. One of the things that the commish has also started this season was the Hall of Fame, in which my good friend Willie Will, Greenslade Gaming, also got inducted as he is retired from the league. But it looks like I'm also going to be on my way to that Hall of Fame, as I've also had many accomplishments. Several have actually just happened this season, including being the first to win back-to-back seasons. Two other things to note for myself is that the past four seasons, since I've even started in the league since season 6, which was the all arcade season, I am the only person who has actually gone to the playoffs in all four seasons as the top seed. So that is another accomplishment that I have. Another thing is that I've also done is actually this with this season in particular is that I also was the first world record breaker with Salamander on the Nintendo Famicom by breaking the world record for that one. So that was pretty exciting stuff that happened this whole season. Um, just just keep adding more and more things to my resume, so to speak, for the league. Um, but moving into season 10, we do know that we'll be playing one of my, well, not I want to say not one of my personal favorite games of all time that we know going into next season is going to be Halo. Again, not a big first person shooter fan, but we are going to be playing it next season. That is a guaranteed game. As well as the Summer League this year is also going to be God of War on PlayStation 2. So I'm really looking forward to some of that. But enough of those about that stuff. Let's get into this part right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go take you through a recap of the entire season, what it was that basically kind of got me through it, and little surprises, maybe a few here and there, and we'll just take it from there. So starting off with week one, we had Strider 2 on the PS1. This was actually a game that I actually picked during the off season when we were getting ready to get the games ready for the season. It was very, very well received. Everybody loved it. I loved it. It was an absolute blast. It was very easy to pick up. Everybody, actually, I think was the only game the entire season that everybody actually finished within an hour. It is just, but everyone was super stoked about it. The soundtrack, the gameplay, everything about it was just super cool. We all had a good time with it, and it was a great, great start to the season 9 of the league. And just to say this also, this out of the four seasons that I have been a part of, this was probably the best season I've ever had. No, in terms of how much with the competition, with the people, with everything about it. This season was the absolute best one that I have been a part of, and I'm grateful for the competitors, for the commish, the other judges, and everybody that was a part of it this season because it just made it that much more memorable for everything. All right, so moving on to week two, we did Bonk's Adventure on the TurboGrafx 16. Now, this was not a somewhat well received game. It was fun though. I still enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed breaking out the old TurboGrafx. I don't actually have too many games for the console myself, but this was one of the games that I know that we were talking about over the summer, since we were going to be incorporating TurboGrafx 16 games into the mix, and this game was brought up like right away, and it was. I said it wasn't the greatest in terms of like reception, over everyone that actually but every page that played it this season, but we still made the most of it. We still had a lot of fun. Something different. I said a brand new console to the mix for TG16. We did have another game from that console a little bit later in the season, but it was a good start. It was a good start to the season overall. Um, and then moving into week three, we did Samurai Showdown on the Neo Geo. Not one of my personal favorite games for fighting games and everything, but it was a lot of spamming, a lot of the same moves, which kind of was a little bit repetitive for me. It was a lot of people struggled with it this week, and I said it wasn't the best in terms of the fighting games. I did like the challenge. Don't get me wrong. Just like any fighting games, you're going to be raging. You're going to have, yelling and screaming because the AI in it is so cheap and counters everything you do. That's just typical, stuff. But once you kind of get the hang of it, things kind of get a little bit better, of course. But this game in particular, it's a lot slower. It's more defensive. It's kind of like Mace: The Dark Age, where things are a little bit more done on the defensive side, and it just made that game. It just made the playthroughs just drag out, just a little bit longer, and not quite my cup of tea. But I still actually really enjoyed the that I was able to actually get through it with at least one character, because that was my goal, and I was able to accomplish it. But I don't know if I'll ever pick up the game again. I actually do have the game on my 3DO, so I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll pick it up again, but we'll see. Moving on, week 4 was Smash Brothers, Super Smash Brothers Melee on the GameCube. My personal favorite Smash Brothers of all time. We were debating. I can remember during the off season when we were discussing, like, hey, there's going to be some games we want to bring back from, because we said in the previous season with the judges, and so just so you know, there's the commish, there's myself, there's Uber Famicom, and there's the Bake Baker, who are all the team that put this all together um, for the Retro Gaming League. And for Smash Brothers, the original one that we were going to do was the original Smash Brothers on N64. So I just made a suggestion, said, well, what if we upgrade it to the next one, since we already announced at the end of season 8 that we were going to be incorporating Metroid Prime into the mix. Why don't we include another GameCube game, and instead of doing the original Smash Brothers, update it to Smash Brothers Melee? Everybody was in agreement with it, and we all just decided, okay, that's what we're going to do. Of course, we all voted on it, of course, before actually saying, oh yeah, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and put this into the mix. No, we voted on it, and all 4 of us voted for Smash Brothers to be in season 9. So, and it was very well received among the pages and everything. Everyone had a blast playing it, so it was some good fun, and it's one of the games where I just kind of like to pick up every now and then. And we actually had some pretty good results that week too, so very happy about that. Now, week 5, we were supposed to be playing Operation C. Now, when I go back and I look at the entire season, I had two. Once the Ducks, did the whole list of games for the entire season up until the playoffs, I had two choices that I was going to potentially, because being the previous season champion, season 8, means in season 9, during 1 week, I get to take one of those games during the main season, and I can swap it out for whatever game I want. Um, of course, it's going to be, I'm not going to throw like a troll game or something like that in there. It's going to be something that, it's worthwhile. Um, and Operation C was supposed to be played week 5. Well, I decided, well, and as I said, there were two games that I was thinking of actually using my game swap on for the entire season. One was Operation C, and the other one was Salamander, to push that one, either one of those two games, to the first round of the playoffs, to the to the first round, to the quarterfinals. But I decided to go ahead and go with Operation C, because I figured that with Salamander, that I was really good at. I probably, after thinking about it, after I did the actual game swap, I was beginning to think that I think Salamander probably would have been the better choice. But in the long run, it didn't really matter. I'll get into that a little bit later. But I decided to use my game swap for week 5. So Operation C got pushed over to the playoffs, onto the quarterfinals. And I decided to change it up and do Nights into Dreams on the Sega Saturn. Now, for those of you who are part of the league, and if you're watching this, I actually had to go through the commish to make sure that this would have been an okay game to actually select, because I wanted to make sure that the emulation would have worked very well for everybody that used it. Now, as we know, every computer is different. Sometimes things don't emulate as well as they should. There were actually a couple pages that had emulation problems during this actual week. The good news is everybody was able to still get their runs in. A lot of the pages did have a lot of fun with this, in terms of, we made it a high score game this week, and where basically we had to do a half hour with Clarice doing her first stage, try to get the highest score, and then they do another 30 minutes with Elliot under in 30 minutes under his first level, Blossom Valley. So therefore, or whatever the name of the stage was, and it was all based on highest score. We combined the scores together, and then that was, and I have to say, I was not expecting to do as well as I did. Don't get me wrong, Nights into Dreams, as you've watched my previous videos of just chatting, where I've discussed my top 25 games of all time. Nights was number 9 on my list. I remember in the video that I made for the preview for the league, I said it was number 8. It's actually number 9 on my list, so my apologies on that. But I was super stoked that we actually got everything to work out properly for Nights to be able to be played, and I did amazing that week, and I actually completely like. I think the commish had the second best score that week, which was like 180 plus thousand points. And then I go through and I do my run, and I got over 300,000. I had over 150, 160,000 on each of those levels. And I've never, ever, ever have even gotten above 100,000 for, I think it was Elliot's stage for the first one. And it was just simply amazing that I just it just blew my mind that I did so well during my run. But again, it's my game swap, that's why I chose the game. Because I knew I was most likely gonna do very well, if not the run of the week. But that's the whole point of being the champion. You want to select something that you're good at, but I also wanted to make it something that was, you know, really fun. There were a couple pages that were kind of like about it, but overall it was very well recepted. And it is, if you go to talk to a lot of people who have owned Sega Saturns in the past and all this other stuff, you will know that Nights into Dreams is always going to be mentioned as probably the within the top 3 games for the Saturn, regardless. And I can't agree more. This game is just an absolute blast every time I play it. As I said, I can do the first couple levels over and over again and just be having smiles on my face like the whole time. It is just so much fun. So that's what I did. So I used my game swap um, for that one, and yeah, so we did very well. And again, let's just move on to week 6, which was Sonic CD, another game that we brought in from season 8 that was not selected. We decided as we were trying to go through the list of games, we went through the entire list from season 8 that was not used, and this one was one that all 4 of us voted on to bring back into season 9 into the mix. So it was a no-brainer. Wasn't the greatest reception for everybody, but it's Sonic, so you can never go wrong with a Sonic game. It was quite different for some. It's not, with the time stones and all that stuff, but it was just a playthrough. We didn't have to do the time stones. We didn't have to do anything else. Just get through the game as fast as you could. And overall, it was a good week. There was some little trouble areas, I would say, during my run, but overall, this was a very fun week to play something out of the ordinary that you wouldn't normally see. I would say, in terms of Sonic, you're always thinking like Sonic 1, Sonic 2. Sonic CD is actually, to me, is also another one of my personal favorite games of all time, and it was great to be able to see that being played, to bring it brought in from season 8 to bring it back into season 9. So, all right, so moving on to week 7, which is Star Fox 64. I have to say, yes, I was always interested in playing this game, but I probably will never play it again. Definitely is an okay game, but I would still prefer to play the original Star Fox over this thing. I have also played Star Fox Assault, Star Fox Zero on the Wii U, and apparently now they're saying that Switch 2 is going to be getting a Star Fox game in sometime in the summer. Of course, that's all just rumors and speculation at this point. But for this one here, I definitely did not feel it. I've also, of course, Star Fox Adventures. I felt that one was actually kind of fun. It had like a little bit of an RPG action adventure, type of game. But yeah, I still would take either Star Fox. Even Star Fox 2 is better than Star Fox 64 in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But it was good to get through it. It was fun. I'm happy. I'll say that I was happy to finally play it. But probably never again. I'll go back and play the first one before I play that one again by any means. Week 8, we had Prince of Persia: Sands of Time on Game Boy Advance. This game was very repetitive to me, and don't get me wrong, even though that was the case, it was just puzzle after puzzle after puzzle, trying to figure out what you had to do to either defeat enemies, to get to the next room, whatever it may be. It was very repetitive, but I still had a lot of fun with this one. And Uber Famicom was one of the ones that he suggested that we put into his game list that we voted on. And it's not something that I'll say I'll come back to. But it was worth the play, the gameplay that I did for it. It was quite usual platforming, type of thing, and figuring out what to do in different places to get through the next door, to find the next piece of the puzzle, to defeat enemies, whatever it may be. I still had a lot of fun with this one. And then moving on to week 9, which was the free for all week, was Jim Power, the Lost Dimension in 3D. I definitely want to come back and play this game. The soundtrack on it was amazing. The gameplay was very I want to say, what is it, scripted? Like you had to do stuff at certain times or whatever it may be, because otherwise you die. It just was that simple, and the fact that you only take one hit to die in the game makes it that much more difficult. It was very, very challenging. I definitely did not get run of the week that week because Smiling Pluvius, he just wrecked everybody in that game. He put so much time into that game, and it just, I think he made it to like level 6, 7 maybe, or maybe, I think maybe level 7, whatever. But I only made it to like the end of like most of through level 4 or something. And I was just happy with that progression. But this is definitely a game that I want to come back and play. I just like the fact that of the challenge that it had, even though it's like scripted. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like Contra Shattered Soldier on the PlayStation 2, where it's like you have to be in certain areas at certain times whenever you're going through it. Otherwise, you're gonna get nailed or whatever it may be. And it's not it, it's and it is a very, very challenging game. There were some pages that really did not like it because of the challenge. There were couple of them that didn't even make it through the first stage. As I said, it was extremely, extremely challenging. But overall, though, I said the music to me in itself made it worthwhile. Just kind of helped you through it, even though it was challenging, and even though you would croak like every like few seconds sometimes. I still had a lot of fun with it, and I look forward to actually moving forward with it, going into on the off seasons, whatever. I do want to play this game again. Next up, we have on week 10 is Kid Nicky on the NES. I don't know what to say about this one. I was able to get through the game. It's very simple. It's very easy to pick up. Um, again, it's very, very simple, almost too simple. But there were so many areas in the game that were very trolly that I didn't really particularly care for. I don't know. I do have a physical copy of the game, but I think I might get rid of it. I think enough is enough with that one. If I want to ever play it again, I think I'll just emulate it. But I think after this season was over, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm happy this is over. It's not, it's a, it, don't get me wrong though, it is a quick little pick me up game from time to time, but it's not one of those greater ones that I'd be like, okay, yes, this is something I definitely want to play again, type of thing. I think after this season was over, I was just kind of happy it was gone. But you never know. I'll probably still hold on to my physical copy, but I don't know if I'm ever gonna actually play it again. It just kind of left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I don't know why, but for as simple as it was, I don't know. Moving on to the next week, which is Mega Man 8 on the Sega Saturn. Now, as we know, a lot of people know that this was released on the PlayStation 1. We decided to use the Saturn version because we were trying to use different consoles this season, so we decided to use the Saturn version of the game. And it's the same exact game as the PlayStation, just has a little extra little bonuses in it, like the galleries and stuff like that you can unlock and everything. Overall, a lot of people that play Mega Man games, this is probably one of the ones that they dread the most. And I had a lot of fun with it. I still enjoy it. I just wish that the main problem that I have with this game is like when you jump, it makes a little jumping noise, and it really gets aggravating after a while. I just I don't know. It's like I understand when you land or something, but why you have to make a little noise when he actually jumps and everything? It's just kind of just annoying to me. But overall, still fun week or fun game for that week. We got through it. I don't think I got run of the week for that one. I know that there were several previous weeks that I did get run of the week, but I'm not remembering every single one of them. But for Mega Man 8, it was good to get through it, and a lot of people had some fun with it, and it was just very very cool to actually play another Mega Man game in the mix for the Retro Gaming League in the main season. Next up, we had Splatterhouse on the TurboGrafx 16. This one was very well received. It was actually one of the picks that I had moving into the what for the lists for our list of games that we wanted to potentially include into season 9, and everybody voted for it. So it was a dead giveaway that we were going to be including this game into season 9, and it was very well received. Everybody knows Splatterhouse in the past. This is actually, since it is on the TurboGrafx 16, it's a little more condensed. There's a few less enemies, I should say, on the actual game itself. But overall, very well received, and a lot of people actually did pretty decent in this. Made at least halfway through the game, to possibly more, even though we only had like an hour to actually get through to get as far as we could or beat the game and all that. Even and the game is relatively short too, which is nice. Um, but yeah, so moving on to the next week is Mr. Gimmick on the Famicom. Now, this one I had to emulate. It was just much like Samurai Showdown. I had to emulate that one too, because obviously I don't own a Neo Geo, and I don't own this game on the Famicom because it is a very, very pricey game. And I just actually, the funny thing is, just before I made this video, I was actually going through eBay and I just thought of it, hey, you know what? I'm curious about how much Mr. Gimmick, it's actually shot up even more in price. So I probably should, if I was going to pick it up, I probably should have when I had the chance, because now it's getting even harder to find. But I think it was also released on PlayStation 4, which you can find for super cheap. But to get an actual Famicom copy is like several $100s to almost even 1,000 now, just for even the cartridge itself, if you depending upon the seller. But if you're looking for like complete in box, you're looking anywhere for like $1,500, $1,300 to $1,500. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. But overall, the game itself is very cute. I had a really good time. This is actually one of Uber Famicom's selections that he made, and we really had a lot of fun with it. My only problem with it is that, much like Sunsoft, a lot of their mechanics are very slippery. It almost feels like you're on ice all the time, so it definitely took me some getting used to. But I had a lot of fun with this one, and I would happily go back to it too. I just wish I had a physical copy, but that's not going to be happening anytime soon. But it is a game I would love to come back to moving forward. Maybe streaming down the line, just to have a fun little stream, seeing how fast I can beat the game, or let alone just see if I can actually unlock all the treasures, try to actually collect them all, learn how to ride the stars, all that kind of goodness. I mean, there's so much you can do in this game. There's so many little hidden treasures in it, just to play through it yourself, just to try to get it, just to try to beat the game. I mean, it is super super cute, and it's super super fun. It's just kind of like a Sunsoft version of Kirby, as the best way I can describe it. And as I said, it's just super super cute and fun. I would look forward to streaming that again. Next up, we have Salamander on the Famicom, and the difference between this and Life Force on the NES is basically you have 3 options in the game versus 2, which makes things, you can possibly speed things up a little bit. But needless to say, as I said earlier, I am now the current world record holder for this game on speedrun.com. Whether or not that's going to change is yet to be seen, but it probably will at some point. But a lot of people play Life Force more than they play Salamander, so it's a no-brainer. I submitted. I didn't even know I had beaten what. This is the ironic thing. I didn't even know I had beaten the world record after I did my run. I just submitted the run to speedrun.com, and then I went to go look, and I was like, oh wait, I did it. I did beat the world record. So, but regardless, another game I'm very familiar with. Another game that I think this was the one that the Big Baker wanted in this season. And I said this was my other potential choice that I was going to push to the playoffs for the quarterfinals, but I decided to keep this one in. And now, after that whole entire week, I now wish that the Salamander was going to be the game I would have swapped out instead of Operation C. But nonetheless, we still had a lot of fun. There was not very many people that did well this week. In fact, we only had like a couple completions, and only a few other pages made it to like the second or third stage. So it really got people going. It really gave people a tough time rather. And I was surprised by that, to be honest. But then again, shoot 'em ups are meant to be difficult, so I don't know. I don't know what else to say, but as I said, I'm familiar with Life Force, so it just made this very much, and it just made this one a little bit easier because now you have three options instead of two, and it's also on the Famicom, so it's I do own the actual cartridge itself. If you ever look it up on eBay, the cartridge for a Salamander is actually super super sick looking. It's like a clear green that you can see right through it. It's just super cool looking. I suggest checking it out if you can. So moving on to next week is Blazing Lasers on the TurboGrafx 16, another shmup, shoot 'em up that you would, and the third game that we also had for the TurboGrafx this season. And this one was actually much more well received than Salamander, and it just kind of got me thinking because the first few levels were actually a lot easier compared to Salamander, but this game itself, once you get past that fourth level, it's absolutely really starts getting difficult to the point where it's just like you're not gonna have a choice but to die, type of thing. So I was able to make it to the final level. I was not able to. Nobody completed the game this week. Only a few got past page 6, maybe 7, or two stage 6 or 7. Um, but overall, it was very much more because I think it's just because of the simple fact I think the power up system was much more balanced. And you kind of have more freedom on kind of what you want to do, which is something I really liked myself too. I'm not gonna lie, I did like Blazing Lasers myself. I thought it was a very very fun game, but it definitely it's not one of the best shoot 'em up games I've ever played. But it is fun. It is fun nonetheless, and I look forward to actually going back and trying to see if I can actually complete this game one of these days because it really was super cool. Moving on to the next week, we were saying all season or the end of last season, season 8, that Metroid Prime was going to be played in season 9. Here it was. And so we decided to keep it a little bit quick this time because we wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance to actually get somewhere in the game, and just make it a little bit easier. So we decided to say, hey, get to the Varia suit, and that's it. That's as far as we were going to progress in the game because even with a 90-minute time limit, you're not going to complete the game. It's just even speedrunners might even question if they can beat it in 90 minutes. But we just wanted to keep it simple for everybody. We set the order of items that you had to get in any particular order. So it just made things a little more straightforward for everybody to be able to get through the Metroid game. Just had to make sure you knew exactly where you were going and all that goodness. And a lot of people had some fun with this week. And I think we did get a lot of completions, so that was a good sign. And again, Metroid, obviously, one of my strong points. I actually did not get run of the week. The guy the page that actually that beat me was none other than Captain Tendo, who I've played in week 4 for Smash Brothers, and we traded victories. So I beat him in Smash Brothers. He beat me in Metroid Prime. So, you know, doesn't mean I'm always the best, and not always going to be. But in every Metroid games, I know there's way better people out there that play Metroid games better than I do. Um, but everybody was thinking that, hey, because it's a Metroid game, I'm going to excel at it. Well, I'm not saying I didn't, but hey, just goes to show you, man, there's always someone that could be better than you. And hats off to Captain. He really just wrecked this game. He did an amazing job with it, and hats off to him for that. When we had a lot of fun with the competition and facing against each other. But we both consider ourselves Medis, Metroid's Medis. And it was a really good week for both of us, and it just shows why we love the competition so much for the Retro Gaming League. It's not just about, and also the friendly banter and all that stuff that we put in the Discord, as well as the just talking about the games, making suggestions, looking for ideas, all that stuff that we come up with in the Discord among watching each other's streams for their runs and all that goodness. So it was very 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 cool. All right. And the final game we had for the main season was Kirby Superstar. Now, I'm just going to put this out there. I didn't know what to expect of this game. I do love Kirby's Adventure. I did love Kirby's Epic Yarn, and I did love Kirby's Return to Dreamland on the Wii. I think it was the Wii or the Wii U. I think it was the Wii. And then I had to play this one. I heard it was a bunch of mini games and stuff like that for the most part, but it also had like an adventure type stuff. And I said, I don't know what to expect. And I do recall that I really had hardly any time to practice that week, so I was just going to give it my all. Ended up making it to the final area of the game. Just didn't get very far. Um, and this was a free for all week. This was the final season of the week, so it was a free for all. And the thing was, is I knew going into and I was looking at that point. I was looking at the points and everybody, and I said, Smiling Pluvius was kind of on my tail. So I said, for me to actually advance to take the top seed going into the playoffs, I would have to get to a certain place. I think it was had to be like second or third place of all the runs that week in order for me to be, regardless of whatever happens, I would be 1 point ahead of them on that list. Pluvius ended up getting, I think, run of the week that week, but at that point didn't matter because that's not what counts. But the completion, which is what I think is what he got, which put him right there. And after all that, and I say I did have a lot of fun with playing that game this week. It was just the typical, style Kirby, like Kirby's Adventure and all that stuff, and it was a lot of fun. I really want to. I'll probably go back and play it again someday, but I mean, it's nothing. I would still rather play Kirby's Adventure over it any day of the week, but it was still a lot of fun. And as being a Kirby game, anything of Kirby is always cute and fun, And it's much like I said, Mr. Gimmick earlier in the season, you know. But just note, and I'm just saying for those of you who are part of the league, there was one spot in the entire right before the playoffs had one situation happened, and I think it was if the commish had gotten one place lower or higher, he would have gotten that extra point that would have pushed Pluvius as in a tie with me. And that what would that have meant have or maybe it was I think it was the commish. I can't remember who it was. But had that been the case, Pluvius and I would have been tied for first place, and that would have put Pluvius as the top seed because Pluvius had beaten me in earlier in the season, which I think was actually in Strider 2, and so he had a tiebreaker against me. So that would have put me that would have put me in the 2 spot versus 1, which would have put me in the lower side bracket. And moving into the playoffs, and I'll get to that in a moment to give you what would have actually have happened. So moving into the playoffs. Now we're into the playoffs. We already know what the quarterfinal match is, and that's Operation C. A lot of people kind of struggled with this one, including me a little bit too, but I still was able to get the completion without having to do any continues. I was able to push through and be able to get through it right away. I only think there were a couple completions in this for this week, and of course at this point, if you lose, you're out, you're done, type of thing. So I started, I told my partner everything, I'm going to be doing some practice for this because now it's the business end of the tournament. It's either lose or go home, type of thing, even though we're always at home when we do this. But I was able to pull through. I was able to get the win. I was able to get the completion, which put a lot of pressure on my opponent. And a lot of folks that were a part of this didn't actually, they got only to the first like 3 or 4 stages, and there was only a couple of the completions. So I Contra, as we all know, any Contra game is always going to be super difficult. So it just made things that much more crucial for me to make sure that I get that completion in and get it as fast as I can. Because again, I was doing my run before my opponent did, so and I think I had something going on which forced me to have to do my run a little earlier than I wanted to. So just again, it put a lot of pressure on me, but also because I was actually able to get the completion in a quick time, it put a lot of pressure on my opponent that week, and I was able to succeed and be able to move on to the quarter or the semifinals rather, which now that game is Wario Land on the Virtual Boy. Very, very fun game. I strongly urge you, if you've never played it before, please do check it out. It is super fun, super easy to pick up. trying to find out the little hidden areas where the treasures are, all of that. Dude, I was being skeptical about what because I didn't really, we were kind of throwing ideas back and forth on how, with the judges and everything, how we wanted to actually go about this game. Are we going to do a completion? Are we going to do just the treasures? Are we just going to do this? Are we going to do that? We had like 5 or 6 different scenarios what we were going to do for this game. And finally we just agreed to say, you know what, let's get to the point where you get all the treasures and then that's it. We'll stop right there, because that's kind of that way, it's kind of like the 100%, type of thing. Then at that point, if you wanted to continue on, you'd been more than welcome to. But yeah, it's just, yeah. The reason I mention all this is because at this point, and this is something to think about, had I had Pluvius taken over the top seed over myself in the playoffs, it would have been myself and Captain in the semifinals, and Captain would have beaten me because he had a better time than I did in Wario Land than I did, and it was about, I think he was like about a minute and a half faster than my time, so that would have ended my season right there. So by 1 point, I was able to get into that top seed and put Pluvius into the semifinals against Captain, and Captain had the best run between all four of the 4 pages in the semifinals. And yeah, so in the finals, it was me and Captain facing off yet again, and what a final it was, is all I can say. Journey to Silius on the NES, a game that has an amazing soundtrack. Again, Sunsoft just does it again. Another Sunsoft game that we had this season, since I said Mr. Gimmick was in the previous weeks. Game is amazing. It's super fun. It's super easy to pick up, but it does have its trolliness to it as well. If you're not very careful, regardless if you memorize stuff, it's very pinpoint accuracy on a lot of those little spots. And both of us, Captain and myself, both pulled no death runs on the game. And I have to say, I don't think that's ever happened in the league. Um, I was just a little bit faster than he did. I was able to pull a sub 15, and he was just a little over 16 minutes in his run. But both of us pulled no death runs in the game, and that just shows you how much of a big this competition was between the two of us, and how close we are and how good we are in terms of our skill levels and everything. As I said, I got much like I said with last season, with season 8. If Cake Style and I had to go head to head in that quarterfinal battle last year, but luckily it was a free for all, um, I would have lost. He had a better time than I did, finishing Turtles 3 Radical Rescue for the Game Boy. And so, yeah, he would have had me then. Um, but I mean, I beat him on Ninja Ryuken the following week, and then I beat him on Road Rash for the final. And then this season, I with he was able to get the completion versus his opponent that week. Wario Land, he had the best run of the 4 pages, so he beat Smiling Pluvius, and then we had to face off in the final Journey to Silius on the NES, and I was able to squeak by. As I said, with both of us getting no death runs, was just phenomenal, and thus I can say this right here: the first back-to-back champion. So sometimes, it is a little bit of luck based in order to get some of the like wins and stuff like that. I have to say, both these seasons I definitely had a little bit of luck on my side, um, and that's about all I can say about it. It's not all about just how skillful you are at video games, and that's just proof of it. Sometimes it is a little bit of luck that it gets you through it, and the fact that I can say that I'm the first person to do the first page to be back-to-back champion is an absolute, it just feels amazing. And now that I've had some time to kind of recap it, or like time some reminisce about the whole entire season, we've had some people who dropped out, but we were able to get some replacements right away, and everybody in the season was just awesome. We had a lot of return people, we had a lot of new faces to the league. We had some really good players in the past that had started like really pushing to do well in like Retro Gaming for Life. I huge shout out to him for how much he had improved during his previous season, and now he was in sixth place. He finished in sixth place. You know, that's quite an accomplishment. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Um, so he was able to get, you know, the most improved page, you know, over the past several seasons. So looking forward, you know, now that I can say season 9 is over, what am I looking forward to in season 10? Well, definitely not Halo. That was not something that, you know, I would have agreed to play, you know, in any given circumstance, because I'm just not a first person shooter. But I do like the challenge. You know, there were a lot of these games this season I had never even played before. Mr. Gimmick, Blazing Lasers. You know, there's a lot of those things I never even played before, and Wario Land, you know, and just, hey, you just gotta have fun with it. You know, you gotta make the most of it. Now, again, you won't catch me playing Doom or Wolfenstein 3D or anything like that. Halo, I'm probably not going to really want to play myself either. But hey, it's the same thing with like GoldenEye. I still played it. You know, I still did what I had to do. Again, I wasn't probably the best at it, but hey, I'm still going to play whatever the game is that we're scheduled to play for every single week. So again, not something I'm looking forward to, but it is something I will play if I'm gonna play regardless, because that is the game we are playing. No idea what other games we're going to be playing yet, as we know that's not going to be happening until the late summer that we're actually going to start, you know, putting the list together for games for season 10. There's a couple pages that are from previous seasons that are we don't even know if we're going to be coming back. But if you are interested, and if you're watching this and you're interested in joining the Retro Gaming League, please do check out their YouTube page, or check out the YouTube page for the league. We are going to be doing signups for the Summer League, which is God of War on PlayStation 2. That's going to be coming in May, I believe, at this point. Uh, but other than that, I said I will be back, and other people have already started asking me like, well, what are you thinking about in terms of like, so now, as I said in the previous season 9, I'm able to go into the main season of season 10. If there's a game that I don't like, or if there's a game I just want to move over to the quarterfinals of the playoffs, I get that ability to do so. So it's just a question of which game am I going to select. I'm going to wait. I mean, obviously, I want to wait until, you know, I see where the games are going to be and what we're going to be playing, and see which game I'm going to want to push to the playoffs, because, you know, or if it's just something I just don't want to play altogether. I just like, you know what, I'm just going to swap this game out because I just don't want to play it right now, and I need some more time to practice, whichever it may be. There's always going to be different scenarios in a situation, but people have asked me saying, well, have you decided, have you really thought about when? And yeah, of course. I already know some games that I've already potentially might swap out for. Uh, I'm not going to say what they are, but I already have about 2 or 3 games that I definitely am looking into to swap out for season 10. It just depends on when and where I want to do it. Um, and it's obviously going to be something I'm good at. I'm not going to swap out a game that I'm going to be terrible at, or something brand new that I've never played before. But hey, you know, that's the part of being the champ. You know, for the previous champ, is that you get to mix things up a little bit. Oh, I messed that up. I said in my video, I said mix, whatever, when I did my little video. But anyway, so I'm super proud, you know, to be able to say that, hey, I'm the first back-to-back champion for the Retro Gaming League. It's been an awesome, awesome season. I can't wait for season 10. I'm looking forward to have all of our competitors back again. Those of the who are brand new or returning, whoever you are, you know, welcome back or welcome to the league. You know, we're going to have a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of banter. There's going to be a lot of trash talking. There's going to be a lot of fun that we're going to have with these different games, you know, in games that you've never played before. It's just that much fun. Just have fun with it, make the most of it, and you'll never regret ever having to join it. I said that was the thing that pushed me to kind of want to go further in this. I don't know how many more seasons I have with me, but there is one thing that's keeping me going right now, because Willie Will over at Greenslade Gaming said that if anybody were to ever win 3 seasons, he would come back. Well, I've won 2 now, so if I win one more season, whether it be 9 or whether it be 10, 11, whatever, if I win one more, that means he has to come back, right? No, I don't. That's entirely up to him. He could just been saying that too, but I'm gonna still do my best to try to win another season here. But with Halo on the horizon, I don't know if that's definitely not going to be a week that I'm probably going to win. But I'm still going to give it my all regardless because it's something I love to do. I love to play video games as much as anybody else in part of this league. And you just make the most of it and have fun, you know. And again, there's no prize money. There's nothing. It's just a lot of, all it is just, you know, pride, a little bit of bragging rights, you know, and that's all it really is. Um, but it's the fact that you're having some fun with a good group of people, and including all the including myself with the baker, a bake baker with Uber Famicom, and the commish himself, RX Jude 22, a classic and current gaming, you know, who runs the whole show. You know, it's just that much fun that you get to do things for the love of video games. You get to have some actual little friendly competition, and it doesn't matter really if you win or lose. It's just having fun with one another, bringing people together with video games. That's what this league is to me, is what it's all about. And just having fun, have a little banter, have a little bit of, you know, competition in the meantime, and just, again, just as I said, having fun with it, making the most of it, and just enjoy yourselves. And every single game that you play is not always going to be, you know, something that you're familiar with. It's going to be something that you've never tried before, or it's something that, oh, or the other thing that comes into mind is, oh yeah, I've always heard about that game, but I've never played it. Look what happened with Strider 2 this season. No one had ever played it before, and look at the result. Everybody completed it. Everybody absolutely enjoyed it. It was a great icebreaker of a game for the start of the season. I have to admit that that's how the season started is made the whole rest of the season that much more enjoyable, because the first game can always make or break the way the rest of the season goes. And having Strider 2 was such a huge hit among everybody, and it just made the start of it and just the continuation. I'm not saying that everybody enjoyed every single game. I know I didn't. There was a couple games in the mix, obviously, as I said, Star Fox 64, you know, just to name one of them. I didn't really want to. I wanted to play it, but not really at the same time. But hey, it's what happens, you know. When you're playing a league, you have to go with the games that are listed and played in whatever order, you know. And just as I said, have fun with it, you know. You don't have a choice but to play it. You don't want to skip out a week, because then you're going to miss points, you know, potentially, and that's what gets you higher up in the ranks and everything. And as I said, I'm trying to get I want to I'm just trying to chase more records for the Hall of Fame, because I know for a fact that if I retire from the league, I already know my name is going to be there. Not trying to, you know, not trying to boast about myself and everything, but I already know for a fact that I will be there, just for the just the several accomplishments, as I mentioned earlier. 4 seasons back to back to back to back that I'd had, that I was the top seed every single season that I've been a part of, going into the playoffs, the first world record breaker, and the first back to back champion for season 8 and season 9. So, can I do it again? Can I win season 10 and do back to back to back seasons? I don't know. That's yet to be seen. We won't know until next year. Um, Season 10 will be starting in late summer, early fall. So I'm looking forward to that. We have the Summer League, I said, starting at the middle of May to middle to the end of May. So that's going to be coming up as well. I will be participating in that. Not really great at God of War, but I do love the game. So I'm looking forward to that very much. Um, but anyway, so that's my recap on this whole season. You know, as again, it's been an absolute joy and pleasure to play with so many great people and pages. You know, whatever you want to, however you want to call them. Um, and again, it's the reason why I do it. You know, it's why I decided to become a judge. It's the reason why I decided to be a big part, try to be a big part of this. Gaming has always been in my blood, you know, and I don't see it happening going away anytime soon. And this just makes me feel alive by doing this. And I can't say enough about it. Just, I love every part about it, regardless if it's, you know, we're trying to figure things out, or something goes wrong, or something doesn't quite go the way we want it to, you know, and figuring out a solution for it, whatever it may be. You know, it's a lot of fun. And I can't stress that enough. Really enjoy video games, classic retro games, and it's something that you might think about if you're a streamer, if you're not a streamer, whatever, and you're thinking about it, I would say give it a take a look at it. You know, see what these things are. We have results. You can go check out the several pages that are there that have competed, including myself. You know, look at all of my other previous streams and all that goodness. It's all there. Check out all these other pages: Smiling Pluvius, Tomkin, Uber Famicom, Classic Current Gaming. You know, all these other pages that are a part of it. Retro Gaming for Life, which I think is a different name now, which I can't remember off the top of my head. Retro Gaming Stream, which is VGM runner on Twitch. Check all these pages out. Take a look at all the results pages. You'll get all of the different names. Ashton RTA, to name another one. You know, there's a whole bunch of them there that, you know, I'm sorry, but I can't say that enough. I love these guys. I love every part about it. The fact that they made it so enjoyable to be in this little friendly competition and to have some fun playing video games with one another. It just makes it that much more fun and to live your life, you know, at your fullest. So that's going to end my recap for Season 9 of the Retro Gaming League. I hope you have enjoyed the content. I'll be back again soon with more Just Chatting series, as well as some first impressions, as well as some full playthroughs of random retro games. So I hope you enjoyed this very much, and I will see you next time.